Welcome! I'm Vine and today I have for you an overview of the Castle faction from the Heroes of Might and Magic 3. As this is the first video of the series, a little explanation before we start. This is a mechanical and lore guide to the faction, but not a tutorial on how to play it. I assume that you, the viewer, already know the basics of the Heroes of Might and Magic. With this out of the way, let's get started. Castle is a human man-at-arms faction, representing the Kingdom of Erathia, led by Queen Catherine Iron Fist from Griffonheart House, a fan favorite poster girl of Heroes 3. So favorite that many fans forget that she technically laid down her claim to the Erathian throne at the end of the game campaign. And yes, her husband Roland Iron Fist is also here. One more fun fact. When we look at the city screen of the most factions in the game, they are not any particular places mentioned in the lore, but overall representation of the faction as a whole. Except Castle, as this picture here is extremely close to how in the lore the Erathian capital, Stedwick, looks like. I can even prove it by showing you Stedwick's representation from RPG Might and Magic 7, which has very similar layout to this castle. Though there are no dwellings on the mountains on the left, so both representations are still just representations and not one-to-one pictures of the city. Also, this may be an unintentional coincidence. Now, as for overall mechanics. The castle is well-balanced and all-rounded faction and a perfect choice to play by new players and veterans alike. For this reason, both game tutorial and starting campaign feature it as default developer pick for the player. The common way of playing this faction focuses on ranged and flying charging units for the best tactical advantage. More about them later. There aren't many downsides to this faction, but Magic Guild can be built only to the level 4th and Magic Heroes, Clerics, are mostly focused on first aid or support spells, which can be a hindrance for more magically aggressive playstyles. Next, moving to the units, the bread and butter of the Heroes of Might and Magic. On the first level, we have Pikemans and Halberdiers, both with special skill of being immune to jousting, a special skill of another unit from the same faction. So they rarely use this immunity and it's not even mentioned in the game. Still, stat-wise they are one of better units on their level, even if mostly will be used as living walls for archers. On the second level, Castle gives us archers and marksmans, who, contrary to what their name would suggest, use crossbows instead of bows, but still double fire from them after the upgrade. They are the best ranged units on this level and should be upgraded in the first week at all costs. Of course, they are also very squishy and need protection. On the third level, we get Griffins and Royal Griffins. As the upgrade name points out, they are the creature of the Erathian Royal Coat of Arms. For these reasons, they are the best unit of third level in the game, as they symbolize the game poster kingdom itself. And this image also solidified its presence in almost all bootleg versions of this faction in the Ubisoft part of the Heroes series. Griffins are a flying charger unit that should be used to quickly deep strike enemy ranged units. This will make them vulnerable to attacks, but don't worry, with unlimited counterattacks, they will punish all who try to do so. On the fourth level sits Swordsmen and Crusaders. Again, the best melee unit of this level, and both Catherine and her husband have a hero specialization that makes them even better. Upgraded, they attack twice and on top of hitting hard, they are also designated tanks of the faction. On the 5th level, we get the second range unit, Monks and Zealots. If you are wondering what faith these monks are, it's the way of the light, a main religion of the continent and a toned-down offshoot of the Church of the Sun. Still, no game explained this faith's dogma besides being good aligned. As for unit mechanics, it's a mid-shooter, but upgraded gets no melee penalty, which is a reference to the fact that Might and Magic monks also practice unarmed martial arts. On the 6th level are Cavaliers and Champions that have jousting skill. That increases their damage by 5% for each hex between the starting and ending position. This makes them one of best units on this level, since as chargers they always will do massive damage to the enemy. And finally, on 7th level we have Angels and Archangels, the best unit on this level with no flaws. They have fixed high damage, increase army morale by 1, deal 50% more damage to devils, and upgraded even resurrect other units. They are very costly to get and recruit though, so don't think of them as cheat units. Lore-wise, there are androids created by the Ancient to fight Kriegans, but think of them less as Terminators and more like replicants from Blade Runner, since they were created to fully resemble biological beings and thus benefit from magic targeting body, mind and soul, including resurrection that they can cast on each other. So yeah, angels in this universe are not your god-given spirits of faith, but super weapons on the hunt. They allied themselves with Erathia since the kingdom at the time was fighting devils, the same enemy angels were created to exterminate. I always loved this bit of lore. Dropping it on people that only casually enjoy this game is always a huge nuke. Time for my opinion, as that was all relevant info about the faction. So, I'm actually hardly a fan of the castle and for a long time consider it a bit of a noob tube as it's overpowered by design. I also don't simp for the Catherine like the half of the fandom. Nonetheless, I actually like the faction and the lore behind it, as Erathia was a straightforward good aligned kingdom with knights and feudal politics, which is always cool to see in a fantasy genre. Also, the fact that Castle is somewhat of a main character of the game takes a part in me forming my not a fan but like stance. Anyway, what's your opinion about this faction? Write it in the comments, remember to visit channel's Discord and see you later!